They did not do well last night. They lost 24-10, and as Coach Matt Nagy pointed out after the game, he was very distressed by the fact that the defense for the Bears scored more points than the offense. So when you look at it, was it the Bears' offense was just bad and continues to be bad, or is it that Bears' offense ran up against a pretty good defense and not many teams were going to have a great showing last night offensively against L.A.?
Well, it is a good defense. There's no doubt about that. I don't think, again, the Rams have played solid football pretty much on that side of the ball all year long, except, last week the 49ers showed a few cracks in the seam, right? And then they had the Buffalo Bills game, right? So there's a lot of things to like. They're very well coached. We know they got Jalen Ramsey and Leonard Floyd and, of course, the best defensive player in the game and Aaron Donald. But more of the story than anything, and as much respect as I have for that Rams defense, it is the Bears offense. The Bears offense is underwhelming. I mean, it's a for lack of a better phrase, a lot of the times it's a joke. I don't know what other to say. There lacks creativity. It lacks toughness. The run game, it's only one or two runs. The pass game, pre-snap, movement, motions, things like that, that's few and far between. So there's nothing on the offensive side of the ball in Chicago to be real excited about. Their job is to score a few points and not mess up the game so the defense can win the game. And the defense gave them some opportunities to at least hang in there. It wasn't their best night either, but you can't throw, interceptions in the red zone, and you can't, not get any points when you're inside the 10-yard line and you're going for it down there in the end and all of that. That just is part of the bigger problem in Chicago. They got offensive issues. There's no doubt. They have to always play through their defense to win a football game.
Yeah, and I tell you, they did have opportunities last night, and there was a drive in the third quarter where they had to stop and go, and receiver was gone. And Nick Foles, when you watched it live, it looked like Foles just missed the guy.
Sure.
But kudos to ESPN for pulling up the replay that showed how the Bears' offensive line overreacted to the presence of Aaron Donald on the left side of the Rams' defensive line, making the Bears vulnerable on the left side of their offensive line. Guys crashed through. Nick Foles had to get rid of the football before he really wanted to. He actually threw the ball as the receiver was executing the stop before the go. And Jalen Ramsey would have been wearing the goat horns today in our draft coming up in the final hour of the program. Goats in a bad way for Week 7 because he got flat out roasted on that one, Chris. But they just didn't connect because Nick Foles had to get rid of the ball early. And that's one of the things that Matt Nagy pointed out. He said that's not a criticism to any player, but the reality is the offense failed to get it done. And he's got concerns about the running game, which isn't there.
Oh, of course.
The offensive line, what do you do? And that's what he said last night after the game. Do you take this guy out? Do you take that guy out? What do? You just hope that guys find a way to get better, and that's the challenge. Teams do get better throughout the course of the season, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to do because it's not like you can just press a button and get a better player. Sometimes you get guys back from injury. Sometimes you get lucky, and a guy like a Quentin Spain becomes available. There's a report that he's likely to sign with the Bengals. I mean, there are guys that pop up.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's on the coaching staff to come up with better ways to play to the strengths and disguise and cover and minimize the weaknesses of the players that they have.
Yeah, well, that's right, and they don't do that well either. Now, listen, the point you bring up about their offensive line, it is very real. It is an average offensive line. There's not one area you look at and you can go, oh, well, they pass protect well, or oh, they pull guards well, or they zone block well. None of that. No. So that is where Matt Nagy is certainly, stuck a little bit because they had never had that opportunity to kind of impose their will on a football game, let alone when there is somewhere to run or do something. They don't have a running back that can take advantage of it. So that's the other thing that hurts them too. So now the O-line who's been dominated, 4 run plays in a row, that 5th play, whoa, we opened up a gap. Here's 20 yards. David Montgomery, he's more of a short yardage back. He can make you miss, but as you could see, speed is not his forte, and he's just not going to rip off any plays that way either. So the big thing with the Chicago, and this is something I've been talking about, like what are they trying to do? what is the identity of their defense? It's this offense, excuse me. It's the second year in a row we're having this conversation. And, I don't care, but just what, it's shotgun spread, and then it's under the center, and then the next play, we decide to motion and do like a cool Kansas City speed sweep fake or whatever. And then we don't see that again for 10 plays. And then all of a sudden it comes back again. So that would be my big thing to them is like you're saying, Mike, find that thing, even though it might not be that great. Just find the thing that you go, all right, we're pretty good at this and we can build on it, and let's go from there. And I don't know what that is. Short passing game, screens, whatever it is, they got to figure it out.
How about this tweet from NFL Research? The Bears had 49 yards rushing last night against the Rams.
Yep.
That was the Bears' fourth consecutive game with fewer than 65 rushing yards, the only time they have had 4 straight such games in the Super Bowl era.
That's like impossible this day and age.
To have 65 or fewer for 4 straight games?
Yes, it's almost impossible with all the creative ways to run the football, the speed sweeps, the reverses we see every week, Mike. I mean, usually your quarterback can scramble and get almost 65 yards a game doing that stuff in this day and age in the NFL. So that speaks to it. Like, it just shows you what pressure are they putting on the defense, right? Oh, it's Foles in the shotgun. Oh, okay, he's going to throw it 5 yards, or he's going to sit in the pocket and wait for somebody. He's going to throw into a crowd of 4 people down the field. I mean, that's really what their offense looks like at times. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, man. Sorry.
No, you're fine. No, yeah. but when you can't run the ball, how in the world do you throw the ball? Your play-action game is meaningless. You become one-dimensional. That was another point that Nagy made last night. You can't be one-dimensional unless you have a high-powered passing attack, which they don't. They need to have the defense creeping up to stop the run in order to get the most out of the passing game.
Yeah.
And look, I don't know if they made a play for Le'Veon Bell. I don't know that Bell would have even been interested in the Chicago Bears. But as the trade deadline approaches, if this team wants to continue to somehow win 5 out of 7 games, and somehow is even more appropriate for the Bears than it is for the Browns, frankly. But if the Bears want to continue this, they need to be thinking about who's out there, what's out there, what they can do to make it better. LaShawn McCoy fallen out of favor in Tampa Bay. Leonard Fournette's the new third down back. McCoy had 0 touches. He didn't even enter the game. He was the only running back who was in uniform in week 7 who did not play for his team. Why not give the Bucs a call and throw him a late-round pick and get LaShawn McCoy? He's been in that offense. He was last year in Kansas City. He can't be any worse than the guys they have. You just got to be creative. You got to think about what's out there and try to make your team better on the fly.
Right.
Or forget about 5-2. 5-2 is going to be 5-4 very quickly for the Bears because they got the Saints and the Titans up next.
Yeah.
Unless they find some answers, and then it's just gonna cascade downhill for the Bears, and they're going to be one of those teams. And we see them every year. Take the bingo off the screen. We see them every year where there's a team that starts strong, and then at the end of the day, they don't make it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're left wondering what the hell happened.
No, you're right. Well, I think, they schedule fell, nice for them here to start the year. Some very comfortable opponents, certainly. Got the kind of the unexpected win against the Buccaneers, who kind of let one slip away, where they kind of controlled the game and messed up the end of the first half and all that. Hey, I'm not giving up on them totally, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, right now you sit here and I go, yeah, they're going to lose to the Saints and they're going to lose to the Titans. Of course they are. I mean, any team that has some sort of offense and defensive balance, it's going to be Strugglesville for the Chicago Bears and what they do. And I don't know, Mike. Yeah, I don't know if you go to the trade deadline and do you just go, you know what, the offense is a lost cause. The hell with it. I don't care. There's nobody out there that's going to help us. Maybe they do that and then they just go, let's just make the defense better. Maybe let's get another shutdown corner, maybe another pass rusher. Maybe they do something like that and they just go all in on that side of the ball. But they got to figure something out to help the defense out. The defense is a borderline Super Bowl caliber defense. I mean, every week they cause turnovers. They almost score touchdowns. I mean, last week they had against Carolina, I believe they had 1 touchdown called back. And, of course, they set up the Bears to score an easy 5-yard touchdown because they intercepted the ball early in the game in Teddy Bridgewater. They can almost win games by themselves if the offense can just help them a little bit and stay on the field and do that. And, Mike, you brought up, what do you do when you can't run the ball, right? The team that you live not far from, they are doing it a little bit. The Pittsburgh Steelers, now their running game has come, but they do the de facto run game through the short passing game too. And I'm just throwing out an example of it can be done where you just, hey, screen this way, tight end screen, running back screen, and you use that as the run game is a work in progress, and then people start to worry about that, and then your run game all of a sudden has a little success, and maybe that's the way they go because they certainly just can't line up and run after people or run at people.
Easier to do, though, when you can send multiple great receivers down field, which the Bears don't have. The Bears don't have to open everything up underneath. They just don't have that. I mean, they don't have the personnel. The worst thing they could have done was stack up those wins early because now they're going to have this sense of foreboding, and I think folks in Chicago have had it all year long, even at 5-1.
Yeah, they have.
That the bottom's going to fall out of this thing because all they have to do is watch the games, and they wonder what the hell's going on. And to Nick Foles' point from last week, winning ugly is better than losing pretty, but both are way better than losing ugly, and that's what we saw last night. All right, there was an issue that came up during garbage time last night when the guys in the booth have to fill because the game's not very good. Brian Griese told a story about talking to Nick Foles the day before the game about issues with communication and whether the plays are coming in quickly enough and whether or not he can get them called on time. Griese shared that. After the game, both Nick Foles and Matt Nagy reacted to what Griese had to say. Here they are.
This is what he said Nick relayed to him. Sometimes play calls come in, and I don't know that I have the time to execute that play call, and I'm the one out here getting hit. Sometimes the guy calling the plays, Matt Nagy, he doesn't know how much time there is back there, and so that's something they have to work out. That's just what was said on the broadcast.
Yeah, I don't know. You'll have to, whenever you talk to Nick, just kind of see where he's at with that. That's not. Nick and I have a pretty good relationship, and he hasn't said. I mean, he'll probably explain what he meant by that.
So when Coach Nagy and I talk on the sidelines, we'll go through plays in different situations and go through the defense. And I'll be honest, like, hey, right now maybe get the ball out quicker. They're bringing some pressures, whatnot. So we were talking about game situations and game, different, Coach Nagy and I's conversations and our relationship. So. Part of that was, the detail, hey, maybe we don't have the time right now for this type of drop because of what they're bringing and the pressures they're bringing. It's easier with that to, hey, 1, 2, 3, ball out. So that's where the miscommunication lies. Is those are actually conversations Coach Nagy and I have on the sidelines so that when we go to the field, we're ready to roll.
So, look, who knows? Without having a recording of the conversation between Foles and Griese from the day before the game, it's unclear whether it was Foles venting a little bit, maybe thinking it wasn't going to be used. That's where I always go with something like that. Griese caught Foles in a candid moment. Griese shared it when he shouldn't have, and now you got guys who have to scrape toothpaste off the floor and put it back into the tube, and it's going to be a little awkward in 3 weeks when the Bears are on Monday Night Football again, and Griese is talking to Foles and Nagy. It'll be interesting to see whether or not they want to talk to him.
Yeah.
But, it's a real point. Are you calling plays that give your quarterback enough time to get rid of the ball when your offensive line sucks? All due respect, too late for that. But when you have this double move that you've been waiting to unleash and it pops and your quarterback doesn't have time to get rid of the ball because the offensive line can't keep the defensive line away from him for 3 seconds, what can you do?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. How many plays do you have in your playbook where the quarterback actually throws the football fast enough to compensate for a bad offensive line?
No. Well, and, Mike, even on that play itself, and, I need to go back and watch it one more time, but, you got 5 offensive linemen. There was 5 rushers there, right? There was four down linemen and only 1 guy off the edge. So first off, is that your plan as an offense? I mean, this just speaks to the bigger problem. The really good offenses in that situation still would go, okay, wait, they're going to bring the blitz over here. Let's figure out, we can go 5-on-5. Yeah, we got a trouble with Aaron Donald now. He'll be 1-on-1, but you have to be aware and just get the ball to your hand. And hopefully that double move we're talking about, right? Now that'll buy you just enough time to maybe see him come out of that break to where you could throw the appropriate ball. Or there has to be a better plan to just throw the ball quickly in that situation because it's not realistic to think that you're going to get that type of route off versus a free blitzer running off the edge that way. So that would be the first thing I would talk about. But yeah, I want to throw the challenge flag on just about everything there that was said in that. First off, it looked like Nick Foles dodged the conversation, the question, To me, Greasy, and I heard him say it last night too live, and I kind of popped up a little bit. Like, I thought he was more referring to at times they make play calls in the huddle too. And, you know, it might be 2 play calls, right? Like, hey, we got this pass play and this pass play for the 2 defenses I expect here. And he's breaking the huddle, or he's in the huddle, and he's going, wait, there's 15 seconds left. I can't get to the line of scrimmage and execute all those type of things that you're asking me to do. So now I'm going to be stuck just running one of them, and we're in trouble. And I thought that's more of what he was speaking to rather than the drop thing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need to rehear the quote one more time. Do we have the quote in writing anywhere or anything?
It is confusing because I think Greasy created the perception it was about getting the plays actually called executing the plays.
Right.
But then when he says that Foles is the one who's getting hit, that's when it opens the door to this idea that it's about the duration of the play before you get rid of the football. Right. So it is confusing.
Yeah.
It is confusing. And look, that's part of the challenge. If you're going to be talking to these guys, and I do it every week, man, you got to make sure you get what these guys said and you understand what they said. If you're going to relay these conversations, you got to get it right. And it sounds like there's an issue there. And but regardless, we don't need Nick Foles to vent or not with Brian Greasy to understand there's an issue. Of course there's an issue. Right. Every time he throws the ball, he's got guys hanging all over him. You know, and he's standing in the pocket, and he's taking a big hit, and eventually he's going to get injured. I mean, you can't get ragdolled around like that when you're built the way he is and not eventually get injured, Chris. All right, how about some praise for the Los Angeles Rams, who have moved to 5-2. They have now expanded their ability to win football games beyond the NFC East. Congratulations for that.
Way to go, Rams.
Slow clap for the Rams. You beat a team outside of the NFC East. Well done. You still have 6 games to play against teams. Well, 5 because you lost to the 49ers. You still got to win one in your division. We'll see if they can do that coming up. But at least for now, they got to 5-2. Here is Sean McVay, coach of the Rams, on his team performing better this week in primetime than they did last week in primetime against San Francisco.
I thought we did a good job. The red zone score that Gerald Everett had, thought was big. Being able to hit Josh Reynolds earlier in the game was a big deal. So overall, was pleased with that. This is a great defense. Wanted to try to minimize some of the opportunities for their elite guys to be able to rush and get home. And, they even found a way to still score defensively. But we knew what a great outfit they were. We knew how responsible they were for a lot of their wins that they had and the way that they got it done. Wanted to minimize those chances, and I thought those guys did a really good job executing the plan.
Let me just vent about something real quickly, because this is about praising the Rams, and Sean McVay is a great coach in the NFL. But one of the NFL's Twitter accounts last night put up the video of him 2 years ago when they were getting ready to play the Bears, and he rattled off the names of all the starters. Come on, folks, if you're an offensive head coach and you don't know the names of all the starters on the opposing defense the week that you're getting ready to play them, what the hell are you? What are you doing coaching football anywhere? Right?
Yes, I know.
Am I right?
No, you're right. I mean, I feel like you and me could sit there and rattle off starters of the teams, easily.
I mean, my God, if that's the next team we're playing and we're studying their film and we're trying to figure out how we're going to stop these guys, you better damn know their names. If you don't, what are you doing in this industry? So anyway.
Yeah. Well, he's kid genius, and he's made a name for himself with his ability to recall plays and all that, so people just love it now that he's so quick that way.
But I remember last year when it happened, it wasn't fashionable to point out that he was anything other than a genius. So I bit my tongue 2 years ago when the Rams were on that track and they were the flavor of the month and all that. But I saw that again last night. It's like, aren't we past that? Don't we understand that any head coach knows? And if he doesn't, he shouldn't be a head coach. You shouldn't be a head coach. All right, but the Rams are doing well. Their offense did enough.
Yeah.
Their defense did more than enough. I don't know how that offense is going to hold up, when you're going against a team with a great offense. It's one thing to say, okay, we can score enough points against a pretty good defense because we know our defense is good enough to make a bad offense do nothing. But that's my concern about the Rams going forward. They get into a game with a team like the Seahawks. Can their defense slow them down enough to let the Rams offense outscore Seattle or Arizona for that matter?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Seattle's defense is so bad. I think so. But Mike, I think your question is real. I think that's probably my biggest question about them as a football team, really. It is that, yeah, okay, they're playing a team similar to them, right? You know, and okay, it's a team that, yeah, they can score some points and got pretty good balance, but they got a good enough defense to take away some of the McVay tricks, right, where we saw last night. Like, some of them were working, and at times it hit a little stale point, you know. And I think what you're saying is the same thing I'm saying, which is for 2 weeks in a row, you see when the McVay tricks and the bootlegs and the run game isn't just absolutely dominating, can the drop-back pass game of the Rams actually win you a football game? And I think that's still a very big question about them. You know, if the speed sweeps, the inside zone, and all those things that McVay does off that, and the pace and the tempo and all that, that doesn't create an advantage. Can Jared Goff drop back and just tear you apart? I don't know. I still think that's very up in the air. He has moments where I say yes, and then he has moments where I say no. Either way, though, the one thing that I think we really got to give credit for Sean McVay, he's very special this way. The way he manages the football game, what he said right there. He realized their offense can't beat us. It's their defense that I'm more worried about beating us. Causing turnovers, giving a short field, causing a turnover, and just scoring a touchdown in general. I mean, the Bears were this close to really doing that. But McVay, the way he calls the game, he's very patient. He understands the big picture of the game. He played field position last night. He just wore them down with field position and used the third phase of football that we never talk about and slowly just beat the Bears into the ground with that. And that's where I got to give him a lot of credit to his ability to see the big picture of the football game.
And in that third phase, it was Johnny Hekker with some great punts, 5 inside the 20, I believe, a 63-yarder at a time when it felt like there was an opening for the Bears. You know, it was 24-3, turn out the lights, the party's over, and then lightning strike, fumble, scoop, score for the Bears. It's 24-10, then a 3-and-out. It's like, okay, this is getting interesting. And then Johnny Hekker kicks the ball 63 yards, completely flips the field, and that's
amazing.
That's
that, right.
Especially because on that next drive, it was one of the drives near the end of the game. I think it was that drive that resulted in the Jalen Ramsey interception.
Right.
It felt like the Bears thought it was the third quarter, not the fourth quarter. Like, we need some urgency here.
Please.
You're down 14.
Somebody yell. Somebody do something. Get going. Like, show emotion. Yes, I'm with you. I mean, geez. I mean, I know it's cool to be calm and relaxed, but I'm with you. There's just no urgency. There's no leadership. Who's the guy on the offense that's that guy? I thought, you know, Nick Foles, his cool calmness, but there's no fire on that side of the ball for the Bears.
But that's the demeanor of a team that knows it doesn't matter. I think that's what it comes down to, that no matter what they do in that spot with 5 minutes left, there's no way in hell an offense that has mustered 3 points the entire game against the Rams is going to score 2 touchdowns. And I think that's what creeps in. And somebody needs to step up in that moment and grab some guys by the shirt collar and say, let's go, and show some urgency. Nick Foles wasn't doing that. Now, you know, and this gets back to the old thing of how well a guy plays when things are going well, how well a guy plays when things aren't going well, but we've seen Foles lead this team from behind. I just think that everyone knew at that point that offense just isn't built at this point to score the points necessary against the Rams late. They knew. They've been out there getting pummeled by that defense all night. There's a point where the human being takes over. It's that I just want to go home and go to bed vibe that we get from time to time from a team. And we got that. I'm glad you picked up on it too.
Yeah.
They just had the look and the feel. And this is what, you know, sometimes the broadcasters don't want to criticize, but you got to say what it is. You got to enhance the viewing experience. You got to let the average person know, what the hell, guys? The clock's ticking. Let's go. You know, let's move the ball here and create the impression and really draw the thread that would suggest that there was just a lackadaisical quality to the Bears' offense late in the game, because I think they knew. We all knew.
Well, and it must, you know, and that's where I go back to like the greasy quote and all that about not getting the, you know, maybe plays in quickly enough and just there's not enough of a urgency that way. I don't know. Either way, there's major issues in that offense. I hope Chicago, the city, can take notice and go, oh, wait, maybe it wasn't all Mitchell Trubisky's fault, okay? I think people are going to start to realize that, because we're here and now. That's 4 games in a row, and it ain't been anything special from Nick Foles, everybody, Chicago fans. It's nothing special. I mean, he did a lot of dumb crap last week in the Carolina win. He did dumb crap last night. I thought he was supposed to be the one that managed the game and do that stuff. The Colts game wasn't good. You know, he got that Bucks game, which was still just middle of the road playing, but you know, nonetheless, it hasn't been as good as I would have expected, but I don't know why I expected so much anyways. I knew the offense stunk. Schematically, players on the field, all of those issues. I just hope people maybe get off Mitch Trubisky.
Look at the numbers.
Yeah.
Look at the numbers.
Yeah.
3 touchdowns, 5 picks, 8 sacks, averaging 237.8 yards per game. And here's the thing. MDS pointed this out on Twitter earlier in the hour. In the 3 games that Mitchell Trubisky started, the Bears had 300 or more yards of offense. In the 4 games that Foles has started, under 300 yards of total offense. So, look, whatever it was that caused Matt Nagy to go with Foles over Trubisky, he had a gut feeling at some point that he needed to do it. And you just wonder whether or not what's gone on in recent weeks, what went on last night, and this whatever it was that he said to Brian Griese starts to plant the seeds for a gut feeling to flip it back to Mitchell Trubisky. And you've got some tests coming up. Saints, Titans,
right,
the next 2 weeks for the Chicago Bears. And then they have a Monday night game against the Vikings, and then it's a bye week, and then they get their introduction to the Green Bay Packers, whom they have not yet played in 2020.
It was 17-3, and they were inside, the 15-yard line. I mean, the game's going to be different if they just even kick a field goal. It's going to be a different game. That you can't make that interception. You can't make that throw in the back left of the end zone that gets tipped up in the air. That was the end of the game right there. They drove down, scored the game. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.